Welcome to A Funny Thing Called Business. We are 4 business owners with over 30 years collective experience under our belts, sharing the capers and triumphs of running a small business and how we now avoid perilous customer chaos and pitfalls. I'm Clare Whalley. We also have
Darren Langley,
Kate Curry,
Pete Morgan.
Welcome to our lovely podcast. And our chat today is all about being a leader. So we all have different business models from, having employees through to apprentices, through to working with freelancers. So I know we have got a plethora of experience talking about being a leader. And of course, just even before we start, even without team members, just being a business owner means you're being a leader because you're leading meetings, you're kind of being interviewed all the time. So there's lots to chew over. So let's start by talking about what experiences you've had about being a leader. Oh, did you hear that inhale then? Something good's coming, I can feel it.
All right, I'll start.
Good.
Okay, so in sort of preparation for this, I'm like, I wonder, it's got me thinking, like, what does make a good leader? So I asked ChatGPT what they think. And I was like, in one sentence, what makes a good leader? And the answer was, a great leader is someone who inspires, motivates and empowers others to achieve their full potential and work towards a common goal.
Oh, God, do you know what? I wrote that down as well, more or less word for word.
See, wait a minute. Have we just found... Are you actually ChatGPT?
I might be.
You see.
So that concludes today's episode.
Well, yeah. But I don't know, listening to that, I always thought I was a decent leader, but clearly not.
Well, actually, it made me think, because I was thinking, at what point in my journey did I start feeling like one?
Yeah.
When I went from, like, just feeling like... I don't know, just Kate, to being like Kate the leader. And I think for me, that was definitely when I took on an employee and suddenly felt that real sense of like responsibility and having to have a bit of a mindset shift about the way I spoke about the business. It wasn't me and I, it was we and us. And and when some great work was done, and it wasn't necessarily my work, it was somebody else's work, and I was having to say, not necessarily take all the credit for things anymore and go, actually, it was
Because some people still do that, don't they?
Sorry, there's something wrong with this.
Well, I like to sort of make sure that credit goes to whoever was, responsible for it. But then, like, on the flip side, when things go wrong, I still have to take all the brunt of it. So that's the joys of leadership. Oh.
I think you've touched on one of the things there that a lot of management and leadership people get wrong completely. It's like, we've got into trouble, we've forgotten to do something. And it's like, no, we haven't, have we, sir? It's you that's forgotten to do something.
Yeah.
That comes up quite a lot. Very quick to take the credit and very quick to deflect the blame.
Yeah, definitely. So, Kate, have you had to deal with any tricky situations? Because when I kind of thought back to when my leadership started, well, I've got a list of stuff that I had to deal with. So what about you in business, having employees?
Yeah, I think part of the mindset shift, I knew I had to just step up in a lot of different ways. I liken it to, I've always got a good metaphor. I liken it to becoming a parent, and all of a sudden you have to right, I have to be really responsible. I've got to sort of really step up here,
and also not swear as much.
Yeah, I can't swear as much, and that's what I liken it to, really. That's the closest sort of thing I can compare it to. In that I've had now I feel like I've almost got 2 families that I'm responsible for. And
that's nice.
And so I feel like it's things like, okay, now I need to set a good example. I can't just sit there griping about stuff. I have to set a really good example to the people. They're all like watching me, and I want to encourage them to sort of step up. And so I feel like I always need to be several steps ahead of them. So it's been quite difficult, really, that I have to be mindful of that all the time.
I think you should stop making them call you mummy, though.
Yeah, I was going to say, what do they think of their second mum?
Oh, yeah, maybe it's not the
And
best
which
thing.
family do you prefer, your first or your second family?
It depends what day you ask me.
See, I was thinking back to my BT days, and I managed big teams of 20, 30, 40 people. And I had to deal with a lot of challenges, like somebody smelling really badly of BO. Somebody always coming in late and not dressing appropriately, and really long fingernails, kept making mistakes and all those sorts of things. And I'm just so glad now that I don't have to deal with telling someone, I'm really sorry to tell you, but you really smell.
Yeah.
And I've had lots of complaints.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Yeah, thankfully I've not had to deal with that one just yet. But yeah, that would be really awkward.
Yeah.
How did they respond?
They were embarrassed and, didn't realise, and, it was hard. But
That's the thing, you've got to think about everybody else as well,
Yeah.
haven't you?
I thought that's what they invented Secret Santa for, to avoid those conversations.
damn it! That's a good one. Didn't think of that. So, Darren, you've got an apprentice on your team, haven't you?
I do at the moment, yeah.
So, how's that leading?
Yeah, I
a
mean,
newbie?
that feels like, 'cause I've managed in the past, when I was at Sky, I used to manage a team of people who, very, very experienced people who knew, you could just give them the flakiest of brief and they'd be off and running and they'd deal with it. With an apprentice, I still give very flaky briefs, so, but I'm conscious of the fact that I need to be, a guidance, I need to kind of help her to develop every aspect of the kind of the role. So her kind of first proper role in the industry, and you do feel a sense of responsibility.
Yeah, first job and all that.
Yeah. And I think back to my first job, and I really enjoyed my first job, and I kind of think about the things that I enjoyed and the things I learned from the people I worked for, who were, one of them, the sort of lead designer that I worked for in my first job was a real mentor to me, and I'm trying to live up to that to a degree of that kind of expectation. That's the kind of expectation I've set for myself, to be kind of some good sort of mentor, maybe not like he was, because he really helped me develop my passion for design. But that's what I want to achieve. So,
Wow. So how do you feel like you're living up to it?
You'd have
Should we
to ask
get
her.
Emily on
I think
next time?
I think that's going to have to be the case. Yeah. Hopefully, okay. Yeah. So I mean, and I'm always open to feedback. So if she's listening,
We'll ask her, don't worry. Pete, what about you? Because your experience is probably similar to mine in that we work with freelancers.
Yeah. Also, I really, unfortunately now, I've got an image in my mind because we've talked about Darren's flaky briefs. Yeah. So I mean, genuinely.
I had a horrible question about you. Are you her daddy?
Woo!
Because she was saying she's the
Okay then.
And I stopped
now
myself
there's a
from
lot of
saying
talk
it.
about inappropriateness in the
Who's the daddy?
workplace, and
Who's your daddy? Sorry, Darren. Sorry, I'll move on.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, you're right. I work with freelancers, but I think the role of leadership also comes in when you're dealing with clients, because I feel it if the client has come to you and they're like, this is what we want to do, and this is the project that we're all involved in now. So you become kind of the leader of the project. So you have to take that responsibility of kind of giving feedback, cajoling them, setting a timetable, so there's that. And then before that, in my old life, when I worked in radio, I presented breakfast shows mainly. Being the presenter meant you were kind of a leader. So generally, I would always defer to my producer because they did the logistics of the show. I was the person that took it out to so I always thought...
But ultimately, it's your responsibility.
It's my name on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I always took that seriously. Between the hours when we were on air, I always said that when we're off air, it's my producer's show. But when we're on air, it's absolutely my show and I'm the leader. And there is that kind of responsibility. And I think that's something you really grew into. When it first happened, I found it incredibly overwhelming and I didn't deal with it particularly well, as I'm sure there's many reporters out there and producers that will attest to. And then when...
Write into us.
They'll be getting together with Emily, they'll be starting like a little...
Their own podcast.
A little fan club or not fan club. And then when, like you say, working with clients, but also I use freelancers to do bits of work. And I remember getting in touch with someone and saying how, it was a friend of mine that runs, a big company. They've got like 20, 30 people in their company. And I was like, how do you do it? What is it to be a leader? And they were very sweet and came back and went, you're going to be fine. You're a great guy. And you've got, but I found it quite intimidating. Like Kate said, it's the first time you kind of get that feeling of, oh, wait a minute, I'm in charge. I've got responsibility here. And it was, all I did was replay everything that the worst bosses I've ever worked for didn't do. The worst leaders I've ever worked under didn't do.
That's a good piece of advice, isn't it, to people? Think about all the bad stuff you've had in past lives before having business. We've all had great bosses, and your job is great then, isn't it? But a bad boss and your job is horrific.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because I had a boss who is a lovely guy, but he led with his heart too much. So he would kind of give you constructive criticism, brackets, giving you a bit of a telling off for something that you'd done wrong. But then a few minutes later, it clearly preyed on his mind too much.
Oh.
And he'd apologise or he'd take you out for lunch, and it's like, no, you just need to tell me off. That's fine. I agreed with the kind of telling off that I'd got. You don't need to. It's fine. I don't think any less of you. Just do it. And so that was one of my first things of, it's never personal, or it shouldn't be personal when you're giving constructive feedback to someone on the team, whether it's a freelancer, whether it's a member of staff.
Constructive feedback. I always have business owners coming to me who say, I don't want a team. I hate dealing with confrontation. And to be clear, who does like dealing with... Nobody
That's the only reason I got into business in the first place.
You like fights. Nobody likes confrontation. Do they? No one thinks, oh, I can't wait to go and tell them they smell a BO. But there's ways and means of doing it, isn't there?
Arc Media Group is a video and social media production company based in Sutton Coldfield, now with a fully equipped film and photography studio available for hire. Arc has a rich history of crafting glossy and impactful video content, from national TV ad campaigns for household name brands to personalised strategies for small businesses. We collaborate with you to conceive creative ideas, capture engaging video content, and deliver trackable results. So, if you're looking for a TV ad, social media campaign, or studio hire, then get in touch at info@arcmedia.co.uk.
When you started leading as a business owner, is there anything that you think, oh, I could have done that differently, or, I could have done that in a better way?
Nope.
My flaky briefs are perfect, just as they are.
One thing I would have done from the get-go is always had team meetings, even though at the beginning it would have been me and one other person.
Yeah.
But it would have felt silly to me back then. Oh, that's just stupid. But I knew it in BT how important it is to get everybody together, get opinions, get plans in place, get everyone's buy-in. And it's the same whether it's one person or 10 people. You need exactly the same. And it needs to be priority, like a client meeting.
Definitely. And be consistent, have it at the same time every week kind of thing. And make sure you do that. That's actually really good advice, because I think both Kate and I have been down that road where we employed somebody at the same time, coincidentally. And one of the things that we didn't do, I think, was to have those kind of meetings. And as soon as we did start to do that, it really benefited everybody. There was, from both sides, the employee understood what was going on in the business and gave chance for feedback, and we were able to kind of have a time slot every week to update on work and whatever else is going on. So it's kind of, it really just set, and at the beginning, doing it on like a Monday just means you set everything set the agenda for the week ahead, and you're off and running.
Yeah, and I think as well it alleviates all those points for confrontation because everything's just aired all the time, really open.
Nothing gets a chance to fester.
Doesn't.
Yeah. I think, because I think there's another bit to leadership that ChatGPT missed out there. And I think that, like, everybody has it, whether they employ it or not, and that is, like, a vision. I think to be a good leader, you need to have a vision about where you want to go with things. And I think right at the beginning, I wish I'd been a bit more open about my vision and my business plan, and I didn't realise that it was something that I should really have shared, like really openly, so that as the team grows, we all know why we're coming to work every day. We all know what's expected of us. We all know where we're going, and what's coming up next. What are the challenges, and how can we all work to help overcome them and get there as a team rather than having it all on my shoulders.
Got enough on your plate.
Yeah, so I think having a strong vision makes you a really good leader, and I kind of wish I'd focused a bit more on that in the early days, which sort of ties into what you guys are saying. Really, it's just like being really making sure that communication is always flowing with the people that are helping you with the business.
I think it comes back to confidence as well, doesn't it? Because at the beginning, you're kind of like, team meeting, or meet, even just with one other person, just leading that discussion, or, I don't know, sharing goals. I don't know, it's just a bit scary, isn't it?
Has anyone else got the conga line, like, theme tune in their heads, right? Because I have.
I thought that was just your default.
I've got
track.
leader, beer. I've got that in my head.
I've got
Plus the Gary Glitter song.
Oh, don't go there.
See, I knew. I had that in my head, and I thought, I'm not saying it.
You can always.
You know what?
rely
Funnily
on
enough,
them.
I had that cross my mind. I thought, I bet Pete's got that in his head.
Oh yeah,
Don't you know it?
straight away.
Yeah.
Pete, what about you? And let's talk about kind of leading freelancers and maybe things that you might have done differently.
One of the things that it took me a while to realise, and thinking back, I should have had it, is we had regular meetings, but it was kind of adding on to that the communication's always open, because the freelancers I was using felt like they could only say something at the weekly meeting. And it was like, no, you can get in touch anytime. If you've got something to say, whether it's good or it's bad, whether I've done something wrong that's, annoyed, upset or disappointed, you've just got to say it, because it's only when that communication happens that we all understand what we're doing. And, like Kate said, that we've all got that same vision then of what we're doing as a company. So I think it's kind of adding on to and you're right, when I was doing the weekly meetings and it was me and one other person on Zoom, and it felt like, well, this is ridiculous. But it was...
It's not though, is it?
No, it absolutely worked.
It's better if there's two of you rather than just you're on your own.
Yep,
On a Zoom call,
Yep.
debriefing yourself.
Flaky pants.
You see, we never said flaky pants, Kate. That's the thing.
This is just the scary stuff that's in Kate's
Exactly. Congas, flaky pants.
head. No. So what have you learned about yourself through running a business and being a leader? I'm going to start confidently with this. I'm good at it.
Because I nearly, no, because...
I thought you was going to disagree.
No,
with me.
not at all.
Bring it on, mate.
No, because I don't like confrontation, so I'm not going to...
I love it. Because I wrote down, leadership to me is empowering and inspiring others to achieve more whilst, being creative.
Yeah.
And I thought, why am I good at that? How am I good at that? And I couldn't really answer that. I think
You've got lots of evidence to back up that you're a good leader, though, because of all the people who are associated with you all
But
succeed off the
I
back
don't know
of
what got me there, though. I think it's me probably not being afraid to speak my mind.
And tell people when they smell.
And tell people the smell. But also, it is about, I firmly believe that we can all achieve brilliant things, and that no one is better than anybody else. No one's got because that person's got that means they can achieve more. And I'm like, no, let's everybody just keep achieving all these great things. And I'd love to see people developing.
I think I'm... well, I was going to say, I think I'm the same, but I don't know.
I think you are too,
I don't know how good I am, but what I have discovered about myself is I love having a go, and I have found myself, I suppose, in this position of leadership, and I'm really relishing it. I really enjoy it. I love sort of seeing my team growing and developing, and when they achieve something brilliant off the back of something I've instigated, that's my name, instigated, then... that's a really wonderful feeling. And I've started doing things like doing talks at universities and high schools and things. So I did a talk at university yesterday all about showing my growth journey, and I just think if that inspires somebody, then that's really exciting. And then I put that on LinkedIn, and then lovely Anita commented, well, you inspired me to set up my business.
It's
and I'm
brilliant.
like, you never know who's watching, do you? And I think having the courage to put yourself out there and have that, try and initiate that sort of, or instigate that,
I like
that positive ripple effect. And I'd love to see that happen. It sort of gives you a bit more purpose, even more purpose to... what you do,
keep
just do
going.
graphic design. But actually, there's so much more to it than that.
If someone would have asked you, Kate, 5 years ago about you being a leader, leading a team and, doing these talks in universities, what would you have said to her?
I'd be like, ha! Good one. I wouldn't have believed it. And I suppose that everybody says that, don't they? And I know I probably come across as quite confident now, but I haven't, always been like that. And I'm still not all the time. And I would never have believed it, no. But it's like little steps, isn't it? Like, how did I get here?
Yeah, love it.
Yeah.
So, Darren, what have you learned about yourself?
Well, I'm going to politically answer that question by not answering it and answering with the answer that I wanted to give anyway.
Okay. You go for it.
Well, no, just because not in preparation for this, but I just coincidentally, I've been watching some videos online, and apparently 9/11 was an inside job, but no, sorry, not those videos. Videos that are about bad managers and bad management and things like that. And the one of the things I've kind of think about from watching those is that your employees have certain values. Yes, they want to come to work and succeed and do well for the business and for the team and all of that stuff. But there is a couple of things that they value, probably even more so, and you mess with those things as a manager at your peril, and that's basically salary and paid time off.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you mess with those, you're going to be in trouble. And some of the videos I've been watching, some guys who are kind of relaying some horror stories, the managers in those stories tend to always, or pretty much always, go wrong on one of those two things by either saying, you weren't in the office yesterday. It's like, I was on holiday and it wasn't booked out, and those kind of arguments, or people not refusing to kind of give a pay review for an employee and then not actually handling it well. The employee then eventually quitting. Yeah. And at that point that they handed their notice, they're like, oh, well, maybe we can give you some more money. It's like, too late.
Yeah.
So, it's really important, obviously, from a manager's point of view, if you're the employer particularly, but even if you've got someone in your team who's managing your team and, so you're kind of the upper manager and they're the middle manager. If they're mismanaging the people below them, you as a manager have got to be on top of that as well, So
because you're managing the manager.
You're managing the manager, so yeah.
Manager sandwich.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people
that's not a good sandwich, is it?
I think a lot of people who end up in that position, and I think this was true for me, I didn't really do that much in the way of management courses. I just achieved enough within my job that my managers at Sky sort of thought, well, he could manage some other people then.
Yeah. But that's a mistake they make, isn't it? Because...
Yeah, they did make a mistake, didn't they? Yeah.
But not everybody, because they're good at the job, can manage people.
Exactly.
And they put them into that position and don't give them the training.
Exactly, yeah. And then they mismanage them, and then it causes them more trouble.
Yeah, it's chaos.
That was my bit that I wanted to
No, it's good because it's really true about, things not to mess with and like valuing your team. Because when I worked for BT Mobile and I was going out to India to do a massive project over there. and I was phoning home, and it was £1 a minute to phone home. But of course, I worked for BT Mobile, and my boss was, is the word castigating? She was really annoyed and angry with me because I'd been phoning home like half an hour a night. And I was like, this is a £60 million project.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I work for BT Mobile, what the hell? And it was that kind of led me to just going, I'm out.
Yeah. And that's just poor management.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So if you're listening, I really wanted to swear then. I'm just going to hold back now. I'm all happy. And I'm
Just smashing the place out.
I've expelled all my anger. I haven't. It's still there. I can feel it. Right, let's talk about challenges. I really want to dig into some confrontation because it is something that comes up all the time. And of course, you know, as people managers, we're humans. We all have lots of personal stuff going on that interferes and impacts with our work. So what have you come across in being a leader? And it might be, you know, not even with team, but with new clients coming in or, you know, whatever it is. What have you had to deal with that's been a bit like, oh, God, this is pushing me outside my comfort zone?
It's probably, I had this with a freelancer and with a client, severe mental health problems. And it was, it was something that I kind of had to think about and deal with because, I mean, this is awful. I'm really not going to come across well here. But with the clients, they owed me money.
Yeah.
And there was money owing, but I understood they were going through an incredibly tough time. I mean, a very tough time. So it was, and I thought I could stamp my feet and throw a wobbler and say, no, I don't care, you owe me money. Or I could be an understanding person in that and say, okay, how do we work through this then? Mm-hmm. How do we go through this problem? And similar with one of the freelancers who suffered terribly with anxiety. That was, again, that how do we sort this? How can I help you do the job properly without letting you down? Because, you know, they wanted to be a good employee. They wanted to be a good worker. They weren't doing that thing of, I've got this issue, so I'm going to sit around and watch daytime telly. They were like, I'm really sorry, I can't do that because of this. And it was like, okay, how do we sort this? What can we do? Is it less work? Is it different structure? I can tell you what I can do. You tell me what changes I need to make.
Yeah. And did you get a good result?
Absolutely. Yeah. They just want, and it wasn't anything I was doing that was bringing about the anxiety. It was just their own circumstances. And I just tried to help as much as I can by structuring the work in a slightly different way that really kind of made the difference for them. So that was my biggest.
And I think that could have been something that to other people they see as confrontation because, you know, there's probably like poor performance going on in the background. And then, you know, because you don't deal with it, it becomes a bigger issue. It's festering. You're doing lots of complaining about it. But instead, you dealt with it head on, empathise.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if they'd not said anything and I was just watching tasks not being done, goals not being met, you're right. That would have been like, okay, we've got poor performance here. Let's, you know, ditch you off. I've got other people I can use.
Yeah.
But because, again, that goes back to what we were saying earlier on of the lines of communication should always be open.
Yeah.
They felt they could come to me and say, this is how I'm feeling. This is what I'm going through. And then it was like, oh, great, okay, not great, but you know, okay, how do we sort this?
Yeah.
So
good.
Yeah, I think that's good management because I think the instinct is to kind of react, isn't it? And
yeah,
if you're under pressure anyway, like everyone is when they're in whatever role in a business, but if you're in a management role and you're running your business and clients are late paying or staff aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing, I think the instant reaction is to just kind of jump on your high horse and kind of give them hell. But
my high horse was saddled up when I read the email.
Yeah.
So I rode the high horse around the back garden for a bit, and then thought,
but that's the point.
Right.
That's taking that time to say, right, we need to address this properly, because, if a client isn't paying you because they're having issues, that isn't your problem. So, you're under no obligation to be compassionate.
No.
But to get to the resolution that you want to get to, it's going to be a lot smoother if you are able to be compassionate, i.e., in that sort of scenario, payment plans or whatever it might be.
Which is what
the system with getting both parties leveled off.
Which is what we did, and came up with it. And the good thing is, they're coming back on as a client. We've had a long conversation, so they've resolved their issues. They're in a better place, so they want to come back on. But I've said we're going to have to put a different payment structure in place, so that if this happens again, we're not having to have this conversation again in a few months' time.
And that's better for everybody.
Yeah, but if I'd have ridden into the distance on my high horse at them, they would never have come back.
No, and probably bad mouth.
Exactly. So
I was just remembering a story. I don't know if it's relevant, but I was just remembering a story. When I worked at BT, one of my mates had run out of annual leave, and he was supposed to be going skiing, and he'd been told, no, you can't have any leave. Anyway, he just called in sick, and the day he came back, he turned up with the ski mask on. Got away with it,
Oh my goodness.
Totally got away with it. I don't know how. He was very handsome and very charming, and he just managed to get away with it. So, you do kind of have to put up with all sorts, don't you, as a leader? Kate, come on, give us some juice.
I think, I suppose my leadership style is a little bit like your old boss, who can be very emotive, and that's how I make my decisions, and that's always my first instinct. If anyone comes to me and says there's an issue, I just like, what can I do to help resolve this? And I think one of the things I've learned over the years is sometimes you do need to sort of try and take the emotion out of things a little bit, and just try and look at the facts and try and approach things from a logical point of view. And that's a bit of a wrench for me sometimes to do that. And I have had problems in the past where I really needed to do that. It quite often helps, I think, to have somebody with you to help resolve difficult problems. So I found having a HR consultant to consult about things and to sort of sit in on certain issues has been really, really helpful, or a good friend or something. So I found that's been very, very helpful to me, because you can't. It's a bit of a battle to fight against your own kind of character, really. Isn't it? But you have to a bit. In a way, you can't just go like Pete says, we can't just instantly, right, get the horse saddled, let's go.
Totally. I think that's good advice about taking the emotion out of it. And I remember a solicitor contact giving me that advice, to solicitor things up a little bit, to take the emotion out. What are the facts? Just deal with the facts. And I've always kind of kept that in mind, because I'm also very emotional.
I think that's one of the key things in terms of like having HR departments and how they become really integral to businesses, because they are matter of fact. They deal with stuff from both sides, from
they look
the management side and from the employee side, if they're good at, if they're a good department or a good HR person, and then other legalities, because I mean, like, stuff will happen, things like people get a warning instead of getting the necessary warnings and the right process for discipline. They just let go or whatever, and incorrectly, and obviously that kicks off, problems with wrongful dismissals and all of these, and then other things like discrimination. Exactly. All of these kind of things that are minefields from a management point of view, but also you can very easily step on those mines by letting your emotions or just letting your anger or whatever take control. And if you've got somebody as an intermediary, and if you don't have a HR department in your own business, having a HR consultant to turn to, I think it's really invaluable, because they're the ones who are going to guide you away from the mines and keep everyone on point. And tell your employees they smell that sort of thing for you. whatever you need them to do.
I always try to think you never know what's going on at home
Exactly,
with people,
yeah.
and they could be going through all sorts, and then
Yeah.
you're just telling them you've got a BO problem. Anyway, so let's finish on the positives, because, like you said, Kate, you know, it's great being a leader and seeing people achieve like great things as a result of your guidance and your support. And so, what else is really good about being a leader?
Well, you can get them to do the work for you, and
Yes,
then you can
that's a
sit
big
around
bonus.
with your feet on the desk.
Watching Netflix.
I mean, when I was a manager, I did get to a point some days where I divvied out all the work to everybody, and I didn't have anything left to do, so I had to make myself look busy, which kind of seems like a reversal, doesn't it? Because as an employee, normally you're like trying to make yourself look busy so the
Yeah.
boss doesn't tell you
Yeah.
off. I was trying to make myself look busy so the rest of the team wouldn't notice that they were doing all the work. I actually think that was a sign of good management, because I was delegating, you know, efficiently and
Yeah, but you should be on a
effectively.
spa day rather than trying to look busy.
Didn't have the annual leave. That's the problem.
Should have just called in sick.
Didn't even think of that.
Yeah.
See, I love that, you know, if you find the right people and you nurture and support them, they will stay with you and be loyal to you for years, and also care not as much as you about your business, but near as damn it, you know, they love your business and your clients as, you know, close to as much as you do, and that's priceless, isn't it? Pete, what do you love about being a leader? Leader.
I think it's seeing the progress in, you know, like a couple of the freelancers that I took on and worked with were really just a little bit more than students when I first started working with them, you know, 2 or 3 years ago, and it's seeing that growth in them as workers, as, you know, audio editors and things. That's the thing that I really like, is just seeing the change in them.
Yeah. Kate, what do you love about being a leader? What's all the positives from you?
Yeah, I think right at the beginning you asked me what my favourite family was, and if I was to form a conga line at home, my 2 teenage daughters would be like, "What are you doing? Stop being so embarrassing." Whereas when I try and do a conga line at the office, everyone's like, "Yeah, let's join on." I'm loving it. So I think that's why I love being a leader with my business, because I love inspiring people to jump on board with my vision and watching them, you know, grow along with the business as well. And that's what I love the most about it. So join my conga line.
Oh, well, I hope everyone's feeling warm and fuzzy now, because I am. And I hope we have inspired our listeners to take that first step in, you know, their first employee or next employee, or even their first freelancer, because, yeah, it might feel scary, but you can totally do it one small step at a time. This is jam-packed full of advice, and you know where we are if you need us. So for all our lovely listeners, please share, subscribe and review so our fellow business owners can enjoy, be inspired, and always keep focused on the fun side of business. Welcome to A Funny Thing Called Business. We are 4 business owners with over 30 years of... That's because I tried to do it without looking at the thing.
You were doing so well.
No. Welcome to A Funny Thing Called Business. We are 4 business owners with over 30 years collective experience under our belts, sharing the capers and triumphs of running a small business and how we now avoid perilous customer chaos and pitfalls. I'm Clare Whalley. We also have...
Darren Langley.
Are you sure?
Right, let's sort this once and
Which
for
way are we
all.
going?
Because when we first started, for like the first 12, 18 months, it was always Darren first. And then one time you just went and pointed to Kate, and it was like, what? How have we changed the order all of a sudden?
So...
I felt
What
like
we
I'd been
doing?
relegated.
Are we doing Darren? Then
It's up to you.
Well, I'll do Darren and then
Okay.
it's
Right.
You were going
alphabetical.
alphabetical order, maybe.
Yeah.
Shall we just go from me
a
saying my
teacher.
name?
Yeah. My name's Clare Whalley. We also have...
Darren Langley,
Kate's Curry.
Pete Morgan.
in
Really?
that order.
Fabulous, guys.
This has been a Monkey Pants Productions podcast.